Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Whitney Houston!
What was the moment that Whitney took over as you were on that set, with the hair, dancing with somebody?
Listen, I think the moment usually hit when the wig was finished, if I'm being honest with you. Different hair shapes and stuff determine what time it is, like, so easily. And I think as soon as Brian Badie, who was doing my hair on this film, had finished the wig, I was like, oh, already I'm halfway there. The moments when I would really get into my groove was usually on the first note that I would hear Whitney sing when we were doing performances, something else would take over because she was doing a lot of the work for me. There's two Whitneys in this film, and one of them, thankfully, is the real one. That allowed me a certain level of support, I think. It felt like I was kind of performing, yes, but kind of resting too, and allowing her to take over. So it just it was so joyful. I can't explain it. I had the best time doing those performances.
What would you say was the most challenging to recreate?
The one that was stressful in terms of just thinking about it and wanting it to be so good was the medley.
Yeah.
I mean, it's also my favorite. I really loved shooting it. I loved preparing for it. I loved thinking about it. I love the way it turned out. It was daunting because I really respected the way that Anthony's script ended with the medley. And I thought, oh, that's so beautiful and so clever, and I really wanted to fulfill it.
Tell me about the moment in filming that scene in particular that you really felt Naomi become Whitney, as she steps onto that stage and, strikes the various poses as she sings.
I think it starts right when she walks out to the mic. That's one of my favorite shots. She's just incandescently gorgeous. And I felt Whitney's spirit. The movements are very precise to what Whitney's performance was. And just, she really captures her.
Well, with the medley too, it is, a 10-minute performance. It really was Whitney's Mount Everest. So for you as a director, as you're technically trying to figure out, how to recreate what was a television performance, what did that really take? Were you looking at, the movements, the camera angles? How much did you want to make match? And how much did you want to kind of put your artistic license into?
Well, that's one where I didn't really want to match the TV performance. Naomi was matching Whitney. I wanted to kind of tell a bigger story, the story of the emotion and the love and the passion between Whitney and the audience. I focused a lot on that. How can the camera help us to tell that story? How can we build the momentum? How can we keep the tension in this long medley of songs? And I really wanted to fulfill it. I'd say that and the National Anthem were really, I wanted to nail the feeling that we had watching those performances.
What was the most challenging performance to recreate? And what did it really take to pull it off?
Oh, I think doing the Star Spangled Banner Super Bowl was really challenging because originally it's in Florida. We were in Boston in November. She sings so powerfully. It was really hard to pretend to reach that, obviously, because she's singing, but still to make it convincing.
Yeah, we planned it for a couple of days. We had very meticulously prepped, as you can imagine. When you have that many camera angles and you're wanting to capture that much excitement. The televisions in people's homes, we shot separately, but we wanted to have that feeling. It was cold. It was not Florida. Naomi, as usual, was completely prepared and had worked on that performance. And then trying to really capture that sense and that excitement. We very meticulously prepped that. We would have lots of meetings that are just on, say, one particular performance and how we're going to achieve that. We have a crew of incredibly talented people. I love this crew and a phenomenal actress. And with those elements, you can make magic happen.
I could do something with the chorus, go up the key there, get more out of it.
Yeah, but that's not a reason to do a song. It's got to have a hook.
A hook?
Yeah.
I'll give it a hook.
We see you all listening to those demos, finding those magic songs. What do you remember about that process and also how it showed Whitney's genius for music?
It was always just Whitney and me. There was no one ever in the session with us, I used to work with my A&R staff picking, I would say, out of many hundreds of songs, about 20. Then Whitney and I would meet alone, and that we would narrow it down to about 12 or so that would make the album. She and I collect, our ears collect. Like I Want to Dance with Somebody, the demo was done in the vein of Olivia Newton-John, but I knew that with Whitney's voice, it would be the heat that would come out. She didn't just want to dance with somebody. She wanted to go to bed with somebody, and she knew it.
And also, of course, we see the Sweetwater's performance where she and Clive first meet, where he discovers her. You know, what was it like having Clive at your disposal, and Pat as well, but having Clive at your disposal for this film?
It was immeasurable. The insight that he has into both sides of her, I think, was really important. You know, they worked together. They were colleagues, but they also built this kind of paternal father-daughter-esque relationship too. So he saw two different sides of her, and trying to find that balance of Whitney. What is the public-facing Whitney? What is the private Whitney? What is the business Whitney? What is the loving Whitney? And how do they all coincide to try and create as multifaceted a character as I possibly could? You know, Clive was a big part of that.
What do you think was really the key to that relationship and their musical chemistry?
There was something there about them, even though you couldn't get two more different people, right? And age-wise, everything. But they really, really got along. And, you know, he adored her and she him.
Watching Stanley and Naomi, did it take you back? You know, watching her capture, you know, the meaning of The Greatest Love of All.
In watching the movie and seeing the interaction between Naomi and my character, it captured our relationship. It captured our dialogue, both in the making of the music, the celebration of the music, but also those scenes where I did a personal intervention and tried to reason with Whitney that a lethal attraction to drugs could never be won by her. I think the film is incredibly accurate.
What was it like, that love? Millions of people. The best feeling I ever knew.
I understand in filming Whitney's last days, you did film some at the Beverly Hilton, some outside. How emotional was that experience?
It was incredibly emotional. And I stayed at the suite that's right above the suite she was in. There's a sense of it being hallowed ground in a way. For me, it was very important to be in that space, you know, to respect it, to respect that space, and yet not to dwell in it, not to let the story end there, to go forward into the medley and not to dwell or be bogged down with tragedy. We wanted to celebrate it. We wanted it to be a tribute. We wanted it to be a love story. We wanted it to be rich and dynamic and full of life. And that's what I think that we were able to achieve.
Do you want to hear something kind of crazy?
Sure, if you don't mind.
Not at all. We finished on the last day, and that was actually my last day of rapping completely. And it had been raining in LA that day, like pouring rain. And I finished and it was wrapped, and I went upstairs and I ordered a burger, as I do. And I looked outside and it was instant clear skies. It was raining when I was downstairs. It was blue skies when I was upstairs, and then the brightest rainbow. And I remember being like, I took a picture, but the picture didn't even show how bright this rainbow was. It was insane. So I like to think that in that moment, maybe there was a release from that place.
My dream, sing what I want to sing, be how I want to be.
I say a prayer with every heartbeat.
Reach as big an audience as I can.
I